Hi guys, I'm Darren, and in this video we're going to be checking out the RunCam Phoenix SP2. So this is an analog FPV camera, and I know a lot of people have moved over to digital, but there are still plenty of people also using analog and people who still use both. So why not check out a new camera? So this is a RunCam Phoenix 2 SP, which is slightly different to the old Phoenix 2. Basically it has more television lines. The other thing is this is a starlight camera, so we'll put that to the test in a bit. But let's get in the box and have a quick look. Okay, so this is a sort of standard size cardboard box, and inside we have a little card which has got links to the manual and also a support email address, which that's quite a nice touch. Right, let's get rid of this bit first because this is probably the least interesting part. So we have got our cables. So there are 6 screws in there for if you want to screw the camera in. There's a couple of spares. Okay, so here's the cable. Got it out of the bag to make it easier. This end obviously plugs in the camera. We have this blue end here which can plug into a remote. The extension is probably so you could wire it up to a flight controller so you can control it directly from a UART. And this end is to go to your VTX. Next up we have the camera. Keep hold of this foam, it's nice for sticking over barrows. This is a standard 19 by 19 size micro camera, and you can see it's all labelled up quite nicely here what it is. So we have our voltage in, which is 5 to 36 volts, so that's a massive range. And then we have a ground and our menu out cable. With regards to the voltage, I tend to run these FPV cameras at the lower end, because most of the time they just knock the power down internally and you're just wasting the rest of it as heat. So rather than sending battery voltage or whatever, I would tend to use the lower end of the scale. So you can see this is an ABS case and it is a standard size lens. Attachment is 2 screws, so that's pretty standard for most of these cameras. Some did go to like a 2 screw each side layout, but yeah, this is pretty much standard. So as I mentioned earlier, this has got 1500 TV lines. This camera has got a 1/2.8 inch sensor. So that is slightly bigger than the cameras that have got a 1/3 size sensor, but it is a fair amount smaller than the 1/1.2 inch sensors. They're quite a bit bigger. So in a minute we'll compare this to another camera which has actually got a 1/3 sensor, so it's fairly close, so the image will be fairly comparable. So got a rolling shutter, you can switch between PAL and NTSC, you can switch between 4.3 and 16:9. It's got global wide dynamic range, it can do color and black and white for day or night modes, and it can be controlled via the cable. The current consumption is 120 milliamps at 5 volts and 220 milliamps at 12 volts. And the weight is 7.5 grams. So that is the basic specs of this camera. But what we're going to do is actually power it up and have a look. Now, this is my first time reviewing an FPV camera. I've used loads of them, but this is the first time doing a review. Now, I'm not going to try and do a latency test because I don't really have the equipment to do it, and Mario over at RC Shim just does the best latency tests anyway. But what I thought I would do is try and demonstrate this next to another camera that some of you may have. So what I have is this rather janky test rig. Now, I admit this thing looks absolutely terrible, but it works, and what it means is that we can see the pure output from these cameras straight into video capture. So the way that these are set up is, ignoring the receiver, this is just for me to share the power, but basically I have 5 volts coming in from a BEC, which is here. That's going to come out, so we have a ground and a power, which are these 2 blocks here. And then these 2 blocks are the signals. So this one here is the signal from the Foxeer Falcor. And when I wire this up, the signal will go into this one with the open clip. The signal is going to go down these cables to 2 identical video capture devices that literally just arrived today. And we're going to use those to actually compare the 2 images. It's identical capture cards, it's identical cables. The only thing difference will be the cameras themselves. I've given you the specs for this camera, but just so you know, this one here is 1200 TV lines, so it is slightly less. It is CMOS. It's a 1/3 sensor, so it's a slightly smaller sensor. So all being well, the image in this should be better. Right, so I thought I'd continue the jankiness of this rig by just using some Blenderm tape to hold the two together. Now, I've had to stagger them in this direction because this is a mini size camera. It's slightly bigger. But you can see the center of the lens is about level. I'm sort of half expecting to get this lens in the field of view because it's amazing actually how wide these FPV camera lenses are. Right, so let's power these things on. So there we go, both got booted up. So this one here is the Fox ear, which you can quite handily see because it's got the OSD on it still. And this one here is the RunCam. So yeah, there's not actually any of the lens for the Fox ear in the image from the RunCam. So yeah, let's have a little fly. So let's go towards that light source into the dark. Yeah, so they both look pretty similar. Actually, the Fox ear looks a lot worse. So what I'm looking at the moment may not be the best image. I'm just going by the recording software. So when I put this in the video editor, I may well change my opinion. But to be honest, the Fox ear looks worse. And actually the Starlight camera on the RunCam, the darkness doesn't affect it anywhere near as much. But yeah, the image on the Fox ear just generally looks a lot more grainy. But we were sort of expecting that, given that the RunCam has more TV lines and it also has a slightly bigger sensor. Right, so let me just turn some lights off. And I'll need to turn some more lights off. So you can see on my desk camera how dark it is. I've literally just got the light from my computer screens, which this is my webcam. This is the sort of light level we're looking at. So it's not completely dark. Let's turn that monitor off. There we go. So that's a bit darker. Just literally got this one main monitor here. And you can see that the Fox ear is not doing actually too bad. And the RunCam is actually looking a little bit worse from what I can see. So even though the RunCam is a Starlight camera, it seems to be struggling a bit more. So let's have a look. So basically you can compare the webcam to the FPV cameras and you can sort of see what I'm looking at while I do this. And actually, yeah, this angle, the RunCam might be slightly better. Actually, no. The Fox ear is actually still winning in the nighttime, even though this is not, from what I can see on the specs, it's not a Starlight camera. Let's go mental. And of course, I'm not going to be able to see how good this is, but lights out. So literally, maybe my webcam can pick something up. I've just got the light from my computer keyboard, lights on the flashing receiver and the Beck, and that's it. So there's the keyboard. As we go around to the dark, there's really not a lot. I mean, this is quite dark, but I won't know how the FPV cameras are doing until we actually get in the video editing software. But let's get everything back on. But yeah, as things get brighter, you can obviously see that the cameras are improving. This is actually going to be quite interesting, I think. So now let's try another flare. Let's point them at that light because that's just going to turn on. And yeah, they both seem to recover quickly from that. But anyway, these are the FPV cameras. Up to you to decide what you think of the quality. Obviously this is not being transmitted over the air. This is using the direct signal out of the cameras into my computer. So this is as pure as we can get for the cameras, and hopefully you guys found this interesting. Right, so at the end of this video, I still don't know what the actual proper results are. I've only been going from a small screen on my monitor, and obviously I'll probably have a better opinion after editing. So whatever I say now doesn't really matter. I'm just wrapping up the video, because if I've changed my mind over what I recorded at the time, I would have edited it into the last section. But anyway, I hope you guys found this video useful. It's a little bit of a different way to look at FPV cameras, and maybe you appreciate that, maybe not. Let me know in the comments. But thank you very much for watching, guys. Fly models like you stole them, and have fun.